Fáilte Roimh, Gach duine, you're very welcome to our webinar this afternoon, hosted by the Housing Agency and with our guest speakers from the Property Services Regulatory Authority. David Rouse is my name, Multi-Unit Developments Advisor with the Housing Agency. We're delighted to say we have nearly 900 people registered for this afternoon's webinar, and so we have about 300 people logged in by now, and we're going to allow a few more seconds for people to log in and join us. We will be keeping to time this afternoon, and we would appreciate your cooperation in that respect. This is our timetable for today's session. I will do a little bit of an introductory piece after we run an audience composition survey. So we'll kindly ask you in a second to indicate to us from what sector you are attending today. We'll run a poll on that shortly. It will be anonymous, so we'd be grateful for your participation in that. I will, as I say, do some updates on news and information of interest to you in the MUDs and OMC sector. At about 20 to the hour, we will hear from Maeve Hogan. Roughly 1:15, we will deal with questions received by email. And thank you very much to everyone who emailed in. We had a deadline of 12 o'clock last Friday for email questions in. At about 1:25, we will have a little quiz, some questions for you, and you might kindly stay logged in and engaged for that. And we will endeavour to finish up at 1:30 p.m. Some housekeeping: if you're having problems with hearing me or seeing me or any of our other colleagues, please put your message in the chat. My colleague Lisa Marie Sheehy is online with me today, and she will be picking up and bringing to attention any issues around that. As I mentioned, we have questions received by email, and they will take up the time allotted to Q&A. We will send you a copy of the slides by email over the next couple of days, so please be assured that that will be on the way. The session is being recorded for future use. We will put it on our YouTube channel over the next week or so. A reminder that the information we're sharing today is for guidance purposes. If you have particular circumstances, particular situations, you will be best advised to seek independent legal advice, and that advisor can look at the various circumstances, history, documentation, parties involved. So I'm going to stop sharing briefly now, and I'm going to run our polls. And the first poll is in relation to, as I mentioned, the audience composition. And so we would ask you please to identify yourself. This is anonymous, so we would just ask you to let us know from what sector of the MUDs OMC area you are. And this just gives us information to allow us to run events into the future and understand our audience. So I can see a great response to that. Thank you very much. A reminder, this is anonymous. We don't record how you identify yourself, so we would encourage full participation in that. We have almost 400 people logged in, and nearly 320 of you have kindly responded. So I'll run that for another quick second and to get the maximum value out of that particular poll. So if you would like to answer it, we'll have run it for nearly 50 seconds at this stage. So I can see that almost 340 of you have kindly responded. So I'm going to end that poll now, and I will indeed share the results with you on screen. So 16% of you attending are directors of an OMC, 24% are licensed property management agents, 14% are from an AHB or a local authority, nearly 10% are homeowner occupiers. We have landlords, investors, tenants. We have colleagues from the legal sector, about 8% of you, people from the construction sector, property professionals, etc., 7%. So accountants and finance people, 7% and 8% other. So thank you very much for participating in that session. And a reminder, we will have a couple of polls for you, a couple of quiz questions in the after the Q&A session. Before I go any further, I'd like to pay tribute to a person many of you will know, Mr. Henry Murdoch, author of the fine book from 2022, Apartment Living in Ireland. Very sad to relay that Henry died last Friday, died peacefully in the care of his family. His funeral, it takes place this Friday. Henry was a gentleman and a scholar, and you can see him there in the bottom right image from a webinar we hosted last 2023 on governance and legal topics, which is on our YouTube channel. So as I say, a great sadness in the sector to hear of Henry's sad passing, and we remember him fondly today. We have dealt with our audience composition survey, so thank you very much indeed. A little bit about the housing agency for those of you who don't know us. That's the main body of the crew on the left-hand side, and our offices on Mount Street Upper. Our strategy for 2025-2029 is available online on our website. I've included the link there, and you will get the slides over the next couple of days, so be assured of that. And the recording, as I mentioned earlier, will be on our YouTube channel. A little bit about the resources and the focus of our work in relation to renters, owners, and sustainable communities. So I'd invite you to read that on our website. A reminder of who we're here to talk about today: multi-unit developments and owners management companies. And many of you will have seen this slide before. It's worth bringing into articulation into one page who are the various actors in the sector. And of course, here we are today to talk about property management agents who are hired by the owner's management company and instructed by the directors. So we will hear all about that later on. A little image from a slide from a Department of Finance report from a number of months ago, which focused on the composition of owners of property in the country. Very interesting to see the diversity of owners in the residential property sector. We would always have seen individuals and companies, but now if you look at the bottom line, we have insurance, pension funds, we have real estate investment trusts, we have IREFs. In the public sector, we now have the Land Development Agency as an owner of property in the country. So what does that mean? It means that there are a lot more people in the ownership sector feeding into owners management companies, a lot more stakeholders with different views, different experiences, different perspectives, different priorities. Something to be aware of in the operation of owners management companies and in the recruitment of directors, perhaps. So some MUDS news. This is going to be a whistle-stop tour, a rapid-fire update on a couple of different points of interest. Many of you will know and be operating in the virtual AGMs environment. The Corporate Governance Act 2024 came into law last December, and I have a link there to it for you, which provides permanent provision for virtual AGMs for those that need it. And the overarching obligation in respect of those AGMs is that participants, the people in the meetings, have a reasonable opportunity to participate in the meeting. And guidance on that is available in the legislation and supporting material. Also, to draw to your attention, recently published guidance and information from the Corporate Enforcement Authority on the role of directors. A good article there from Michael Dillon, their director of legal. I've included a link to it there, and information on their graduated enforcement process in relation to breaches of company law. The Corporate Enforcement Authority is the statutory body charged with the enforcement of company law obligations, and where there are, if you like, queries in relation to company law matters in an OMC, it is to the Corporate Enforcement Authority that those should be directed. Many of you will know that the Programme for Government in January has a number of commitments in relation to MUDs and OMCs. The first is to move responsibility for the MUD Act from the Department of Justice to the Department of Housing, which is the parent department of the Housing Agency. And there is a commitment, political commitment, to establish a unit in the Housing Agency to regulate owners management companies to ensure effective governance. And so we will be no doubt working with our departmental colleagues and our political masters, if you like, to make progress on those particular commitments. Also related is the commitment to transfer responsibility for property services and estate agents to the Department of Housing from where it currently sits in the Department of Justice, and no doubt the PSRA will be engaging with departmental colleagues on that. A little bit of an update and a call for action for you in the sector in relation to establishing a census or a database or a listing or a record of all the OMCs in the country. This is the run rate of new OMCs being incorporated. As you can see, last year was a record year. We are working on enumerating or establishing the number of OMCs in the country. We think there's around 10,000. There's a kind of a background on how we get to that number there. I won't get into the detail of that, but we need your help. When you're filing your annual return with the Companies Office, when you're filing the B1 with the CRO, please identify the company as an OMC by ticking the box you see on screen there in the core online filing platform. This is very important if we are to understand the number of OMCs in the country and where they are and who they are. So please tick that particular box. You could also do it on the A1 for new companies, but more important probably for existing companies. There's lots of information on our website, on our FAQs section. There it is. There's the link on how to go about this. The Companies Office have helped us with material and information around this on identifying OMCs and also if you want to change the company name, how to go about that. And I've included an article that I wrote for Surveyor's Journal a year or so ago on the topic. The national plan, moving on, the national planning framework, and why do we need this and why do we need this information on OMCs? The national planning framework, which was revised and published a number of weeks ago, identifies the continuing increasing importance of apartments and compact housing models in Ireland's cities and housing stock. The local authorities, both the waste enforcement and the fire authorities, would like to understand the OMCs out there in their jurisdictions, and we've been asked by the waste enforcement regional local authorities, the WRLAs, to draw to your attention some work they intend to undertake over the coming period in relation to inspections around waste segregation. They issued some information letters over the last period to OMCs and property management agents advising of their work in this space, and it will be based largely on local authority bylaws on waste segregation. So if you have queries or want information and support around that, we had a webinar last year available on our website where WRLA went into this in fine detail, and their contact details are there. So best to engage with them on that front. Interesting to see from the Law Society, they issued new pre-contract inquiry guidelines for homes and multi-unit developments, essentially drawing attention to the benefits of the Section 17 annual report under the MUD Act. And so maybe good to see attention been drawn to that particular report and the quality of information in it in the context of conveyancing. A reminder that information on the defects remediation process is available on our website, both the interim scheme, the update from February in relation to the slight delay on that scheme, and there's information available there in relation to the government's legislative programme for summer 2025, where heads of bill are in process. If you have queries around the interim scheme or indeed the defects remediation schemes, please contact our colleagues in the relevant section. That's their email address. You will have these slides later on. We will be hosting outreach events for OMCs and MUDs. We've held 26 around the country to date. There they are. There are the locations from Mizen to Malin almost, with great attendances, great engagement last year. These are shots from attendance last year. These are the dates and times and locations, all at 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights from the 10th of September to the 22nd in those locations. Full details coming on our website over the next number of days where you can book in for those. So watch the social channels, etc. for that. We have been undertaking EU-supported research into retrofitting MUDs, and we will have some training materials available online in the near future, so watch out for those. As I mentioned, our FAQs have been updated, lots of new FAQs, and importantly, the answers. A reminder of the webinars available on our website. I'll be speaking at a Chartered Accountants webinar next week. So those of you interested in the tax, legal, regulatory side, you're more than welcome to attend that. It is a paid event and it's hosted by Chartered Accountants Ireland, who kindly engaged with us in producing our guide on governance for OMCs, which, as you know, is available on our website, as is an important guide that I think Maeve will reference in her presentation, engaging in agent guidance around that, and we've referenced it there on the slides. That's enough from me. delighted to introduce Maeve Hogan, the Chief Executive of the Property Services Regulatory Authority. Maeve was appointed in 2015. Maeve is a career civil servant and has worked in the Department of Justice and the Garda Inspectorate. And you'll know Maeve from our webinar last year. So I'd invite Maeve to take the floor, as it were, and over to you, Maeve. So I think you'll be sharing some slides.
Well, of course, David. Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks to the Housing Agency for inviting the PSRA to address you here today. I hope you can all see those slides.
They're perfect. Thank you, Maeve. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, David. I'm watching the clock, and I'm very conscious, David, keep us on time. So, welcome to everybody here today. And I note, I suppose, 40% of those attending today make up OMC directors and management agents. So that's a significant level of our stakeholders that we are involved with. This, as I see today, this presentation has been recorded, so it's an opportunity for the audience for this video to be shared on your various social media websites and that. So it's interesting if you know anybody who missed any of the conversation here today, that they can engage. So a bit about the Property Service Regulatory Authority. We were established in 2012, so we're out and about for the last almost 13 years. We were established to set and maintain standards and code of practices for the sector, and the sector we're talking about is the property service provider, so your auctioneer, your estate agent, management agent, and your the management agent, I suppose, which we know today are on the call in relation to providing services for OMCs. We have a complaints process system as well, so we welcome complaints in relation to the sector. Manage and maintain a compensation fund, and that fund relates only to dishonesty, where dishonesty is proven by an agent, a licensed agent. And again, a significant role is a statutory role around increased public awareness and confidence in the sector, which we do throughout the year. Again, established in 2012, head office is Navan, where we are today. Agency under the remit of the Department of Justice for now, and as David outlined to you earlier, there's changes in the programme of government in relation to the MUD Act, no different to ourselves. In the PSRA, the responsibility is to transfer to the Department of Housing, so there's ongoing negotiations and consultations around that. We have a board of the authority, have 11 members, and licensees, so both businesses and employees of the business are licensed to provide a property service. So there's over 1,800 employers and over 4,200 employees licensed by the authority. Not everybody in an agent's office is required to be licensed, only those providing a property service. We have a code of practice in place, and it's no different to any other sector that you would expect to act professionally, with honesty, integrity, confidentiality. You know, as a sector, you deal with a lot of people and engage with a lot of various stakeholders. So confidentiality is key in our sector, as it is in so many other sectors. Open effective communication, and I'll speak strongly to that. There's no better remedy to remedy issues other than around effective communication, and engaging and talking can resolve an awful lot of issues if there's open communication between the parties. And professional development, we have in place a statutory professional development. Again, to as we all know, the OMC sector has changed and keeps developing, so to keeping a pace with the developments in that sector. Around licensing, there is no obligation in OMC to engage a property management agent, but a lot do because of the size of the OMC areas. Where an OMC chooses not to appoint a management agent and intends to pay the member of the OMC to self-manage the development, this person does not require a PSRA licence. Any issue that arises where an OMC is self-managing outside of the remit is a matter for the OMC itself and not for the PSRA, so just to be aware of that. We operate under 4 license types, and the key that relates to this sector is license type D, which is property management services, again providing services to an OMC. The OMC engages the property management agent with a D license, and they must have a D license. And again, who needs to be licensed? All businesses need to be licensed, and the employees of the business providing the property service. Management is maintaining public common areas of the OMC are the people that needs to be licensed. And we do have a document on our website. We call it the traffic light document that outlines the key activities that require licensing and those that don't. Each licensed employee of your management agent is required to carry a credit card size license. So you will have their picture as part of that ID, the date the license expires, the license number, property service D, again it's management agent, and the name of the person who's licensed and their employer. Again, all contained on a credit card size license card that the licensees are required to carry with them when providing the property service. So if you are employing a management agent, you can ask to see their license. License lasts for 1 year. And again, to make people aware that we do have a public register of all licensed agents. So if you are employing a management agent and you're unsure whether they're licensed or not, go to our website, look up the register of licensed agent, and you will see them there, or you won't see them there. And if they're not there, they're not licensed, and you should not engage them. They are breaking the law, providing a property service while unlicensed. Again, I spoke about the credit card size. They are required to carry that as in providing their services. Again, I just spoke briefly there. How do I know if my management agent is licensed? Go to our publicly available register. It's updated weekly, PSRA.ie, and go to the register and check. And don't assume that your agent is licensed. Don't make the assumption they were licensed last year, that they're still licensed this year. Check the register. It's available publicly. It's at PSRA.ie, and check the register that they are licensed. I think I'm going to talk about, and we saw a number of the questions coming in around letters of engagement. For me, this document is critically important. It couldn't be any more important. I think as a management agent or as a director in an OMC, the contract between the two parties provides a huge amount of assurances for both parties in relation to the contract they sign. So it is a contract. We do expect both the agent and the directors in the OMC to sign this document and date it and agree it, and give each other a copy of the signed agreement. It details a range of issues that you agree to between both parties in relation to the services, critically the services that the agent, that you as a director in an OMC requires of your agent to deliver. Specify them, be detailed, be conscious that, leave no room for error or omissions. That aspect of the contract is important. If there is a complaint about a particular service that has been delivered or not delivered, the first document we go to is looking at the letter of engagement. So I can't specify and emphasize how important this contract agreement between both parties is. The LOE must be signed and dated by both the property management agent and the OMC. It is and we have seen it, and that's why I just raised it. It is under no circumstances should the management agent sign a letter of engagement on behalf of their client, the directors in OMC. That is critical, and we have seen it where agents do sign on behalf of their client, and the client knows nothing about it, and leads to other investigations on our part. So just to reassure everybody out there, if you are engaging a management agent, both the management agent and the directors in an OMC are required to sign off on that contract. The next point is critical. The property management agent will only take instruction from the persons, directors in OMC, who are identified in the LOE to engage with them. So as part of the LOE, there is a section in there who are the directors in the OMC directing that should engage with us as part of the any engagement between the OMC and the agent. The agent needs to know there could be 10, 12, 20 people, directors in an OMC. Who is he to engage with? Who is he to take the instructions from? So, consider that when you are engaging your management agent, who on your OMC is designated to engage and give instruction to your management agent. Be fair to your management agent. He can't be taking instruction from 10 people or 20 people or 4 people. There has to be somebody identified by the OMC to give instructions to your agent.
Maeve, I might slightly interrupt you. Apologies. If you could just move your mic slightly back from your mouth, there's a little bit of feedback. That might be great. Thank you very
Great,
much.
no problem.
Apologies for that.
No problem. So the LOE reflects all these provisions, and as if I'm an OMC, I will be seriously considering all the aspects of the contract that I am signing up to. So it's important to take your time and indeed take legal advice if you need to in relation to the contract that you're about to sign when you're engaging your management agency. So sorry, just the second last point there. The PSRA will only liaise with the persons identified by the OMC in relation to a complaint received from the OMC, or in cases where such persons have resigned, the PSRA will accept a complaint from a newly identified persons representing the OMC. Likewise, in the PSRA, we need to know who we can liaise with as part of the OMC. We're not going to deal with 11 people, 11 directors in an OMC on an OMC, or we're not going to deal with 10 people. We need to know who are the designated persons that we will engage with. So that's just critical and important. And likewise, if somebody steps down, we need to know who are the new people that are being engaged, so you can amend your letter of engagement. And it's not a big deal to amend your LOE. You can create a brand new LOE if you so wish, if there's changes there in personnel, or you may wish to amend it. Either is acceptable. The PSRA strongly recommends that a new LOE is issued when new directors are appointed. Again, that is our strongly preference, but you also have the option of amending it. An OMC can request that a non-mandatory clause of an LOE be changed or amended where they are dissatisfied with them or wish to enhance them. So the provisions in your LOE, there are statutory provisions within that LOE. The text under each of the headings is optional text, so it can be amended, added to, subtracted. Again, both parties signing up and understanding what they are signing up to is critical as part of any amendments to the LOE. Where both parties fail to come to an agreement on any disputed clause, you do not sign the LOE until you have full agreement. You are signing a contract, and whatever's in that contract, you're signed up to. So just remember that if you're not happy with an aspect of it, you should not sign it until you are 100% satisfied with the provisions and issues contained in your letter of engagement. Again, it is a contract. Both of you are signing up to it, and it is a document that will be used in the event, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but it will be a document used in court to support either side's position. Always ensure the management services are provided by a licensed agent and that they have a valid D license. Again, it's the D license that they require from the PSRA. I think we've highlighted this is the LOE that we're highlighting. Again, critical, I will go over it again. Please identify the persons whom you want you're instructing your agent to engage with. So the person's authorised to instruct the agent. The agent needs to know who to take instructions from. And we have seen, where there is, maybe splits in OMC or disagreement within OMCs, and so it's vital that there is no confusion over who is giving the agent instructions. Critical again, what property service do you expect your agent to provide? And they can be detailed in this agreement. So be very, give good consideration and time to exactly what services do you expect of your agent to provide. So just on David's document he spoke about earlier about important points for OMCs to consider prior to engagement of your agent, what service they will be provided, and be very clear about the services that you expect of your agent and what service will be procured on behalf of your OMC. Has the OMC granted the agent delegation to enter into contracts on your behalf? Has the agent's fees and commissions been clearly set out? Again, an issue that, a lot of our complaints around commissions and payments and fees. So clearly that both are clearly documented in your LOE, and both understand that is there VAT included or not VAT included. So that should be all very clearly spelled out in the contract. And is there a provision to review fees and charges as part of your term of engagement? Who has access to the relevant OMC bank account? Does the bank account require more than one signature? I have a very particular strong view on that. I think one signature on an OMC bank account to withdraw or transfer monies is not good governance. I think it's certainly, I would be expecting that somebody as one of the directors if not two of the directors in an OMC would also have to sanction withdrawals from the OMC's bank account. Lots of people will disagree with me on that and say it's cumbersome and that the agent wants to make payments out of the OMC bank accounts for services and invoices. And yes, I understand that, but there has to be a level of governance. I can't write a check myself here in the PSRA without governance. I have, very strict governance here and very strict levels and amounts that I can write. So that's an aspect that the OMC as directors should consider. And if you are going to put, directors on a mandate to transfer monies in out, those directors should be freely available and readily available for signing off on requests from your agent. Again, consider your agent. They're trying to do a job. They're trying to make the bill, pay the bills. So it's important that there will be a very clear process in place about signing off on such transfers. Again, have former directors and our property aid manager agents been removed from your bank mandate? Some of the mandates that we go looking at where there's queries, we see the current mandate, persons mandated on are former directors, no longer involved within the OMC. So that's something that you should update on a regular basis. What if any decisions or payments can be made by the property management agent without prior consultation with the OMC? Again, sit down with document this in your letter of engagement. What can and what cannot the management agent do without consultation with the directors in the OMC, and who are the directors in the OMC that he needs to consult with? Again, very important, because he can't be dealing with 12 people and only one person's available at a particular place in time. You have to be reasonable and understand that the agent make it very clear to the agent who he can engage with and what level of engagement is necessary prior to making any decisions. Has the property manager taken out and paid for appropriate insurance cover for the OMC, and how would you know? We have seen in some few instances where OMCs do not have insurance cover, and it is extremely concerning. As directors in OMC and as agents, insurance cover is critical. I mean, we've all seen the Grenfells in the UK and the damage and carnage that has been caused there. So it's important that there is proper and adequate insurance cover for an OMC. And I'm asking the directors in OMC to make sure on an annual basis that you've money in your OMC account to cover the cost of insurance, and ensure that there is an insurance policy in place and it's active. It's a critical aspect of safety and obviously the agent engaging with the insurance company on your behalf to ensure that there is insurance in place, and adequate insurance in place at that. As I outlined and David mentioned earlier, the housing agency has published guidance for OMCs who are about to engage a new agent. Again, critical reading for directors in OMC when you're engaging an agent. Fees and outlays, a lot of, right across the whole property services, not just in relation to OMCs, right across the whole spectrum of property service provision, issues of charges and VAT, and whether VAT's included and outlays in that are a central cause of complaints to ourselves around fees and that. Again, the first thing we look for is the letter of engagement between the parties, what fees are agreed and who signed off on the agreement. Delegation there, that the client can delegate to the agent to enter into contracts or not. Again, critical aspect. What are you allowing your agent to do, and what are you not allowing them to do without consultation with directors in an OMC? Again, start off on the right foot at the beginning. Make it very clear what your agent can and cannot do, and what decisions you as directors in an OMC wish to be involved with. The client account, who has signatories and access to your client account? There's a lot of monies in OMC's relevant accounts. There's between collecting your service charges, sinking funds and that. So there's a lot of monies collected there, and who has access to it? What governance levels have you over that client account? Monies withdrawn from the account, levels of money withdrawn, overview and oversight of that client account. Again, as directors in an OMC, it is OMC's monies. You are elected onto an OMC as director. So I would suggest strongly it is in your good governance to express good governance to ensure that your client account is operated in a proper manner. We have had some agents, very few, I have to say very few, but some agents who withdrew monies from their client account and dissipated it for their own personal use. So it's just a health warning to ensure that there is the mandate is up to date. So if there's any former people mandated on that bank account mandate, that they're withdrawn and taken off and new people assigned to it. And how many people do you want to have access to your client account? Who can withdraw from your client, monies from your client, and how much? And is there a max level? So these are all questions and actions that OMC directors need to consider when they're looking at their client account. Just very quickly a bit about complaints. I can guarantee you if there isn't a signed contract in place between both parties, there will be issues because the first thing we look for is the signed LOE. If it's not in place, you can be sure there'll be issues around fees, there'll be issues around the agent not undertaking the actions and services that he was engaged for. So there's, that LOE is critical around laying the groundwork for the relationship between yourself and your agent for the next 3 years. Unlicensed operators, again, we do want to know about anybody who has not got a D license operating there and is not on our register. We want to know about it. Fees and outlays, I've spoken this, as I mentioned, fees and outlays are an important aspect of the contract. And if there's any disagreement, we do look for that LOE, what amounts was agreed to by both parties. Client account breaches we get, and conflict of interest in relation to OMCs as well. So they're the types of complaints that we get. Matters which we will not investigate, Jen, we have a piece on our website around this. Complaints by members of an OMC, tenants and landlords, etc., against the OMC or the property service provider acting on their behalf relating to issues including service charges, AGMs, maintenance of common areas. Such matters should in the first instance be referred to the directors of an OMC. How accessible are our contact details for directors in OMC? Again, for owners in an OMC, who are your directors in an OMC, and have you contact details for them to raise issues if you're not happy with actions by your agent? And remember, the agent is only undertaking the actions as per instructions from the directors of their OMC, and in particular, the identified directors in an OMC from whom they take directions. Matters of complaint by tenants, landlords against OMC do not fall under the remit of the PSRA. OMC is the client of the licensee. So the licensee takes their instructions from the directors of the OMC. The owners in the apartment complex do not instruct the agent. The agent takes their instructions from their employer, who is, in this case, the directors in the OMC. OMC are governed by the multi-union development, I'm sure you're familiar with that, and are subject to company law. So directors are on an OMC are subject to company law. So any member of an OMC has recourse to the Circuit Court for redress. That's just a note for information. Complaints against OMC alleging they are carrying out property service in their own multi-unit development without a licence. So they might be self-managing, and it's advisable to appoint a management agent who has experience in managing public areas in OMC and procuring services. So if you are engaging an agent, it's good to have somebody with a bit of experience that understands OMCs, understands public areas, understands dealing with issues and with tenants and landlords, owners in an OMC. So just a bit of experience is valuable there. Again, we won't investigate. PSRA has no remit of the level of fees charged by an agent for management, an agent for managing an OMC, nor for fees charged when preparing replies to requisitions on title or pre-contract inquiries where a unit owner is selling their property. Again, the fees charge is a matter between you and the OMC. This matter is dealt with in the LOE under Part 4. And costs are to be agreed in advance of delivery of services. Again, engage fully with your agent around what to expect around fees, around those the full contents of your LOE. don't be signing an LOE until you're happy that you understand exactly what's involved for both yourself, the agent, and yourselves as an OMC. We have prescribed under SI minimum standards additional areas that we can investigate. So that came in 2020. Property Service Regulation minimum standard extends the definition of improper conduct and matters that can be formally investigated by the PSRA. Service delivery around issues around service timeframes and methods of engagement with the management agent, timeframes for transfers of monies. You know, you're in an OMC, how swiftly should an agent transfer monies? Again, put it in writing. Don't assume your agent will transfer money on a weekly basis or every fortnight. Put it down in writing how often you expect your agent transfer monies into your relevant account. Unless specified in the LOE, minimum standards specifies the times and methods for the various transfers. Conflict of interest we spoke about. Again, if there is a conflict of interest, if the agent has a conflict of interest with the OMC, divulge it. That bit about the code of practice about communication and engagement, divulge it. Don't be hiding it, because if it's found out later on, it becomes a bigger issue than it need be. A licensee shall not be a director in a management body, an OMC of a multi-agent, where the property managers are providing services are provided to the management body. So I'm a licensee and in an OMC, I'm providing service there. I cannot be a director in a management body, in OMC. The director employs the agent, so the agent cannot also be a director in an OMC. So that's important to bear in mind. Licensee who is a unit owner so some of our licensees can be unit owners in a multi-unit development, may become a director in the management body who is responsible for that. But again, explaining, being open and transparent in relation to any conflict that you might have. Whereas the licensee is a unit owner in development and intends to provide a property services to that development, the licensee shall notify that fact in writing to the secretary and directors of the OMC. Again, open and transparency. If you have a potential conflict and you think you might have a conflict, always divulge. It's better to divulge up front. Just parts of our prosecution. PSRA is a prosecuting authority. Section 47 offences related to client accounts and accounting records. Also powers to prosecute persons who make false or misleading statements in any application to the authority. Trading without a license, and we've undertaken a number of Section 28 prosecutions around unlicensed trading, and Section 38 less so, using a license issued to another person. We haven't taken prosecutions in relation to that. Just a quick overview of some case studies in relation to OMCs and prosecutions. The PSRA received a complaint from an OMC concerning their former property manager who was alleged had misappropriated funds from its relevant account. So the agent misappropriated funds. Property management agent was also alleged to have failed to put insurance in place. Again, a critical aspect of responsibility of an agent and directors in an OMC to ensure that they have insurance in place. Following investigation by the PSRA, it was found that the agent had misappropriated from two OMCs a total of 116,500 and failed to put insurance in place on behalf of one of the OMCs. The PSRA sanctioned the agent by revoking their licence and was permanently prohibited from applying to the PSRA for a licence in the future, and imposed a financial penalty of 145,000. And this sanction was confirmed in the High Court, which were required to do in major sanctions. In the same case, a criminal investigation commenced and the agent was arrested by the guards, and the agent appeared in the Circuit Court and pleaded guilty to 52 counts of theft and was jailed for 3.5 years. So our powers of prosecution was important there. Just very quickly about our compensation fund, I spoke to you earlier about it. Agents, licensees are required, both businesses and employees, to contribute to a sector-funded compensation fund, and that fund compensates clients in relation to licensed agents who are dishonest in their activity. And that case I spoke to before, around the 116,000 that went missing, that was the subject of a compensation claim that we did pay out because there was dishonesty. Contact details in relation to ourselves. Again, if anybody wants to contact us, we're available. All our information is on psr.ie, or there's our contact details for anybody who wishes to contact us. Just might leave that slide up there if anybody wants to engage with us. And that's it. I think we're going to take questions now from the floor. From David, yourself, I think you're going to.
Yep, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Maeve, for all of that. For all of that insight into the operations of the authority. A couple of housekeeping points before we get to the Q&A and our little quiz at the end. A number of people have asked in the chat whether we will be sharing a recording and sharing the slides, and we will indeed do that. We will share my slides and indeed Maeve's slides. We'll bundle them up together and email them out to you over the next number of days, and a link to the recordings. So be assured that that will be on the way. Just with reference to the topic of insurance that Maeve mentioned in her presentation, I'm glad to say that the Housing Agency authored and published the first ever dedicated guide to insurance in multi-unit developments, and it does cover a little bit about the PII for agents, but it covers broader issues around public liability and block insurance, etc. So that's available on our website, housingagency.ie, and I'll include a link to that guide in the material we send out after the event. To help us deal with the questions that we've received by email, I might invite Antoinette Gavin, Head of Investigations with the authority, to come on screen and unmute and turn on your camera. Antoinette, delighted to have you with us, and thank you very much for helping us today as well.
Thanks.
It's fair to say, I think it's fair to say that a number of the questions, in fact, probably the majority of the questions that we received in ahead of time, are either number one, happily addressed by the insights and content that Maeve has provided to us, or number two, are really outside the remit of what the authority does under its statutory duties and remit, as we say. But one that came up a fair bit in some of the questions was access to the letter of engagement. So who in the OMC or in the MUD context should have access to that letter of engagement? Should it be just the board and the agent, or the members of the OMC itself, or whatever else? So maybe Antoinette or Maeve, you might want to take that one up, please.
Maybe I'll just start that again. I can't stress how important that letter of engagement is between the two parties. It really is. And if there's any changes or amendments required, that it's important that they are done at the time. That said, the agent is employed by the directors in the OMC. So the directors, as you all know, are appointed by the owners in the OMC. They operate on behalf of the owners. The directors then appoint the management agent. The management agent reports directly to the directors in the OMC, or those assigned for him to report directly to. So the agent is not going to provide the contract that he signed to owners in the OMC. I would expect that directors in the OMC would make available on request that signed contract in relation to the services that are expected of the agent and the fees and all the other sections in that LOE that refer to the engagement of the management agent. I don't know why you wouldn't, but obviously there are some people out there that felt that they couldn't get a copy of it. There is no statutory provision. I think, Antoinette, I'm correct in saying that for an OMC to provide that contract to the owners in an OMC. But I would feel that it's something that you can bring up at an EGM or an AGM that you want access to it. And if there was enough people in the room and the directors were listening to the room that they wanted access to the LOE, I don't know why they wouldn't, but maybe the obvious option there is to become a director in the OMC yourself and get it. I know probably you don't want to do that, but I can't understand why an OMC that you have appointed there, voted in, wouldn't provide that contract. I think, Antoinette, I don't think there's much more we can say on that.
No, there isn't. There's no statutory requirement, as Maeve said. It's only voluntary if the directors of the OMC want to provide it. But as Maeve said, the licensees will not provide that because you're not party to that contract.
I suppose it's a question of representative democracy. The members elect the directors to undertake the executive action on the board, and it's for the directors then to decide what they share with the members in that capacity, either through the forum of the annual general meeting or direct communication with the members on an ad hoc basis. We did receive a query in relation to the installation of particular facilities and spending by an OMC on particular facilities in an estate, and the engagement around that. And I expect that's answered probably in the MUD's legislation on the topic of sinking funds, etc. We would say that given the time constraints today, certainly people can email if there are queries in relation to the content, as Maeve kindly suggested that she delivered. You can email info@psr.ie. Anything outside that, send it to mud@housingagency.ie. That address is the best contact point for ourselves. As we mentioned at the start, the information we're providing is general in nature. We're not providing, unfortunately, legal advice, because every scenario is different, every case is different, there are different facts, circumstances, etc. And I suppose it should be pointed out that in the future, maybe the housing agency might have a dispute resolution or oversight role in that respect. But at the moment, we can point you in the direction of resources and talk to legal advisors around the specifics of a particular case. Some of the other queries we received in Antoinette in terms of legal recourse and refusal to share the letter of engagement. Well, again, there isn't in that respect. I think it's fair to say. Another question that came in was, what is the typical time frame and process after filing a formal complaint with the PSRA against an agent for non-cooperation? So what are the sort of the timelines in terms of complaint resolution from yourselves?
When we receive a complaint, we would do an initial assessment to make sure that it's one of the directors of the OMC that is making the complaint. And if it isn't, it's declined. If it is, we'd investigate. But under our legislation, once we initiate an investigation, the licensee has 30 days to respond. And then, depending on the length of time that the investigation takes, then a draft investigation report is done, which is sent out to both parties. And they also have 30 days to respond on the draft report. And then it goes to final report stage, and it goes then to the board for a decision. So it could take, the quickest I'd say we do an investigation in would be about 3 months, 3.5 months.
And just to clarify one of the questions that come in, who makes the complaint to the PSRA? So it's the directors of the OMC.
Yeah, the directors of the OMC make, or whoever's nominated in the letter of engagement that that the management agent deals with.
Another question that came in was around the importance of the code of practice, which I suppose underpins the minimum standards, etc. So I think that's available on your website.
Yeah, that document, the 6 principles there, and as I said at the outline outside at the presentation, they're no different to any other, any other sector, be it private or public, statutory or non-statutory. They're just good sound business principles of engaging with people. And again, communication and engagement, communication with your agent, communication with the directors, communication between the directors and the agent, communication between the directors and the owners, all, would, if they all started talking to each other, a lot of those issues that happen on site could be resolved or explained, maybe not resolved, but certainly explained and understood why the railings aren't being painted, why, cars are being clamped. Those, issues that we get landed with, that we just have no statutory remit in dealing with.
One other question that comes up frequently is the transfer of records from an exiting agent to an incoming agent. Am I right in saying that's something that's covered in the letter of engagement and indeed probably in the minimum standards?
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah, there's an agreement, a section there dealing with the transfer and how soon or how quick those records can be transferred from the exiting agent over to the new agent, or back to whoever, back to the directors in the OMC.
So again, emphasising the importance of the terms and conditions, the provisions, the clauses in that letter of engagement, and the attention that should be.
Now, we have seen, Antoinette, you might support me here. We have seen cases where there's complaints that the agent is owed money by the OMC and is withholding the records until payment is received. So he's exercising, the agent is exercising a lien on the OMC. Generally, they get rectified, but that's just to make them aware that if the OMC does owe money, the agent may not be willing to hand over them the records until that money has been paid over.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a point in the letter of engagement which states that once the licensee issues their final invoice, that the OMC has so many days to pay that invoice.
Very good. Thank you very much, Antoinette. It's coming up to 25 past the hour, and conscious that we don't wish to be the obstacle between everyone on the webinar and their lunch, perhaps, if they're having a late lunch. So we said we would run a little quiz, and I'm going to launch the first question there. Again, your answers to this quiz are anonymous, so please do feel free to participate in the quiz, and hopefully you can see it there on screen. The complainant contact point. So if you've been attentive and listening to our speakers and the presentation, the options, the question is, in the event of a complaint arising, the PSRA will liaise only with which of the following? Is it A, the chairperson of the OMC, B, any member of the OMC who has fully paid their service charges, C, the persons identified by the OMC in relation to a complaint received from the OMC, or D, a tenant renting a property in the development? So as I say, hopefully the answer is pretty obvious, but the profile of answers coming in there when I shared it might indicate that people might like to watch back the webinar and the content that has been delivered with a cup of coffee to sharpen attention levels, perhaps, if I could be so cheeky as to say. So I'm going to end that little quiz there and share the results. I think the answer is C. So those of you who answered A, B, or D may like to revisit the content and have a look again at what Maeve and Antoinette kindly went through. And so we have a second little quiz question here, and it's in relation to the signing of the letter of engagement. So which parties should sign the letter of engagement before the provision of property services could commence? Is it A, the agent, B, the client OMC, C, both parties, D, none of the above? So again, we'll just run that very, very briefly, just to see who was paying attention. And I'm keen to say I can see the results coming in, and there's a much sharper focus on the accuracy of the responses to that one. So we'd be glad to share that with you. So thank you. About 260 of you have answered that. It is anonymous. We don't record how you answer, so feel free to participate in that. So I'll end that now, and I'll share the results. I'm glad to say that we've a 95% accuracy to that one, Maeve. So that's a great, a great reassuring. Yeah. But to the 5%, which is 13 unlucky 13 people, they might take a quick look at the detail of the content and so on. I'll just display on screen the best email address for contacting the housing agency, mud@housingagency.ie. A reminder of those outreach events that will be happening in September and October. Keep an eye on our website for those. We'll wrap it up at this stage with sincere thanks to Maeve, and I can see in the chat lots of compliments and thanks for the content and the benefits that everyone has received from attending the session. Thanks indeed to Maeve for the work and the cooperation of the authority in putting together today's session. Thanks to Antoinette today for helping us with the queries, and to Declan and Roisin from the PSRA in the background, to my colleague Lisa Marie for being in the background on support, and to my communications colleagues in getting the word out to you about today's session. The recording will be available over the next week or so. We will send out the slides over the coming period as well, but it just remains for me to wish you a very happy afternoon, a very enjoyable afternoon, and if you get some sunshine, well and good. Gorabilo Ahagiv, August Slán Tamil.
Thanks, David. Thanks to everybody. Bye.
Bye.